I take you into chapter 3 economic survey. From exam point of view it has a very limited scope. Alright, बहुत कम बातें हैं जो वो पूछ सकते हैं chapter 3 से. From an exam point of view it has a limited scope. Chapter 3 economic survey. I again repeat, limited scope, from exams point of view. But yes, prelims के point of view से page 88 पे क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसीज के बारे में के रेटिंग मेथड्स दे रखी हैं, तो थोड़ा उन्हें दिमाग में रख लोगे. क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसीज के रेटिंग मेथड्स हैं. जो क्वेश्चंस मैं आपको देता हूं एमसीक्यूज, उसमें 5 क्वेश्चंस मिल जाएंगे आपको जो क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसीज के मेथड्स पे ही बेस्ड हैं. BBB का क्या मतलब है, AAA का क्या मतलब है, जंक बॉन्ड का क्या मतलब है, इन्वेस्टमेंट ग्रेड का क्या मतलब है, ये बातें हमें समझ में आनी चाहिए. तो पेज 88 यू विल गेट सम आइडिया अबाउट व्हाट इज इन्वेस्टमेंट ग्रेड, क्योंकि प्रीलिम्स में ये पूछा जा सकता है. फ्रॉम योर प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इन GS, इन्वेस्टमेंट व्हाट इज इन्वेस्टमेंट ग्रेड एक्सेट्रा, BBB का क्या मतलब है, तो वो ना एक लाइन लिख देंगे, वेदर दिस इज करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट और नॉट करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट, दैट काइंड ऑफ अ क्वेश्चन दे विल मेक एंड दे विल राइट अ लाइन दैट BBB means junk grade or CCC doesn't imply junk grade, that kind of a thing, maybe false line or a true line. They will write it and then ask you whether that line is correct or incorrect. So one thing is that which is important from prelims point of view. Then other than that, you should know the definition of what is credit rating agency and what are the implications of credit rating agency. So if you ask me to summarize this chapter for you, it's a 20-minute summary actually. 20-minute summary because it has to be talked about in terms of what are credit rating agencies. So the answer is these are institutions which give rank, that is rating, to countries with respect to safety of financial assets, safety of financial assets issued by them. So again, if it is a sovereign credit rating, that is credit rating of a bond with sovereign guarantee, सरकार की गारंटी के साथ जो बॉन्ड इशू हुआ उसको आप कैसे रेट करते हो कि क्या उसमें इन्वेस्ट करना सेफ है. क्रेडिट रेटिंग का मतलब क्या हुआ? क्रेडिट मीन्स अ लोन आई एम सीकिंग फ्रॉम यू, क्रेडिट मीन्स अ लोन आई एम सीकिंग फ्रॉम यू और अ लोन दैट यू आर गिविंग मी. So credit rating means that how is the loan in terms of say bonds issued or financial assets issued from one country rated for others in the world to know about it. Even within a country, एक country के अंदर भी credit rating होती है. That is companies like ICRA, Indian Credit Rating Agency, CRISIL, all these companies are credit rating agencies in India, जो इंडिया में issued bonds को भी rate करते हैं कि आप उनको क्या वैल्यू दोगे, क्या वो इन्वेस्टेबल हैं, क्या वो सेफ बॉन्ड्स हैं, क्या वो डेंजरस हैं, क्या वो डिफॉल्ट कर सकते हैं. सो दैट इज द आइडिया ऑफ क्रेडिट रेटिंग. द पर्पस इज टू रिजॉल्व द एसिमेट्रिक इंफॉर्मेशन इन द मार्केट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल एसेट. फाइनेंशियल एसेट के मार्केट में इंफॉर्मेशन एसिमेट्री होती है. दैट इज नॉट एवरीबडी नोज whether the bond is good, bad and so on. तो उस एसिमेट्री को केयर करने के लिए एक थर्ड पार्टी आए. द थर्ड पार्टी इज क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसी. इनका काम है बॉन्ड्स को या फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स को रेट करना सो दैट द बायर ऑफ दीज बॉन्ड्स कैन हैव बेटर इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट द पेइंग कैपेसिटी ऑफ द इशूअर ऑफ दीज बॉन्ड्स. But remember, one dangerous aspect here is that most of the time, the agencies are financed by the issuer of the bond. Most of the times, agencies are financed by the issuer of the bonds. So in that case, since they pay the agency companies, it sometimes becomes a moral hazard issue again, that the agencies may rate them better because they are ranked by, financed by them. जो इशूअर ऑफ बॉन्ड है, बहुत बार वही लोग एजेंसी को फीस देते हैं, पैसे देते हैं कि मेरे बॉन्ड को रेट करो. तो जब उनसे ही पैसे ले रहे हैं उनके बॉन्ड को रेट करने के लिए, तो थोड़ा अंपायर पे शक हो सकता है दैट विल दे बी रेटिंग देम करेक्टली. बट एनी विच वे, नाउ व्हाट इज द पर्पस इन इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ऑफ इट? द इकोनॉमिक सर्वे tries telling you, the purpose in economic survey. So the economic survey tries telling us about relevance of international credit rating in Indian context. See, if you get a high credit rating, अगर आपको हाई क्रेडिट रेटिंग मिलता है, then there are benefits of it, so there can be benefits of high credit rating. One benefit is larger flow of foreign portfolio investment. The foreign investors, especially the foreign portfolio investors, they come in some larger number to you. Larger flow of foreign portfolio investments, that is one benefit that you get, because then people trust your markets more and foreign investors will start putting more money in your market. Another is lesser cost of financing for domestic borrowers in international market. If the credit rating is high for the country, अगर क्रेडिट रेटिंग अच्छी है कंट्री की, तो मैं एक डोमेस्टिक फर्म हूँ, मान लो मैं एक ICICI बैंक हूँ या येस बैंक हूँ, और मैं अपना एक बॉन्ड इशू करता हूँ लंदन स्टॉक एक्सचेंज पे, तो लोग उसे कम इंटरेस्ट में भी लेने को तैयार हो जाएंगे क्योंकि उसे लेस रिस्की मानेंगे. If I am issuing a bond even on London Stock Exchange as an Indian company, people will be willing to buy those bonds because they will consider it less risky. People will be willing to buy those bonds because they will be considering it less risky. Hence, they will not ask for a higher return. And therefore, I can issue those bonds with a lesser return behind them. It will save my cost of borrowing. That is a big benefit with respect to the credit rating being favorable to me. And another benefit of credit rating being favorable is it maintains macroeconomic stability, by keeping borrowing cost low and financing the current account deficit. दोनों बातें होंगी, keeping borrowing cost low and financing current account deficit through capital inflow. Financing current account deficit through capital inflow. This is the theoretical justification for a high credit rating. एक high credit rating के लिए theoretical justification यही है कि theoretically speaking, you get large flow of FPI, you get lesser cost of financing for domestic borrowers in international market. Large flow of FPI क्यों? People trust your market more और आ जाते हैं आपके मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट करने को. FPI and FDI both of course, but FPI मैंने पहले जानबूझ के लिखा क्योंकि it's the financial asset which matters more here. Lesser cost of financing for domestic borrowers in international market, because domestic borrowers, please understand this, when they charge in the international market, the cost of borrowing will depend on the risk attached to the borrowing. So if I believe that this country is less risky, I will be willing to buy bonds from this country by taking lesser interest also. That kind of a thing. Then remember, macroeconomic stability kya hai? Less inflation, less fiscal deficit, less current account deficit and stable growth. जब आप बोलते हो मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक स्टेबिलिटी तो वो है लेस इन्फ्लेशन, लेस फिस्कल डेफिसिट, लेस करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट एंड लेस ग्रोथ, स्टेबल ग्रोथ. तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? जब आप ये कहते हो मेंटेन्स मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक स्टेबिलिटी, अगर बोरोइंग कॉस्ट लो रखेंगे तो गवर्नमेंट की फिस्कल डेफिसिट में इंटरेस्ट बर्डन थोड़ा कम हो जाएगा. If the borrowing cost is low, then the interest burden on government's fiscal deficit will become relatively lesser. And if financing current account deficit can be happening, आपका मान लो current account deficit है, लेकिन capital inflows इतने हो गए बाहर से कि BOP आपका surplus में आ गया, आपके foreign exchange reserves add हो गए. If you have a current account deficit, but you have so much of money coming from abroad that your BOP gets into a surplus and you add to your foreign exchange reserves, then overall you remain more and more stable. So these are the theoretical justifications for having a good credit rating. Survey says that from 1998 to 2020, India has been underrated. India's context. Survey कहते हैं कि 1998 से 2020 तक इंडिया हैज़ बीन अंडररेटेड. जो उनकी एक्चुअल रेटिंग होनी चाहिए वो नहीं रही. इसको वो प्रूफ भी करते हैं और मैं आपको लेके चलूंगा उसमें. जो एक्चुअल रेटिंग होनी चाहिए वो नहीं रही और वो इसके कारण देते हैं. The survey gives you reasons as to why actual rating of India did not remain as high as what it could have been. They say, one, biased rating, where bias is against developing economies and emerging markets. उन्होंने कहा कि बायस्ड रेटिंग है और वो कहते हैं देखिए चाइना जब थर्ड लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी बन गया तो भी उसकी रेटिंग कम रखी गई. इंडिया वैसे ही जब फोर्थ लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी बन गया तो भी उसकी रेटिंग कम रखी गई. दैट चाइना बिकम्स द थर्ड लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी और इंडिया बिकम्स द फोर्थ लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी, फिफ्थ लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी. The ratings were kept low even though they were large in size economy. So since they were large in size economy, they should have been given better ratings, but on an average their ratings were kept below compared to what it is kept for the other developed economies. Compared to how it is kept for the other developed economies. Then they say that the rating system has a pro-cyclical bias. Pro-cyclical bias. In the second chapter discussion, we talked about counter-cyclical, pro-cyclical. Pro-cyclical bias means countries which run or which go for expansionary policies in a boom. Expansionary policies, fiscal expansion, monetary expansion in case of a boom, and which go for contractionary policy in case of a recession are rated better. Countries which go for expansionary policies in a boom and contractionary policies in a recession are rated better compared to countries which go for counter-cyclical policies. So they say India kind of a country goes for counter-cyclical policy because government has a role to play in India. So during a boom, the government plays contractionary policy to keep inflation in check. And during a recession, the government plays an expansionary policy to push the economy upwards. But then credit rating agencies have a method in which that kind of behavior is punished and hence India's ratings remain low. And the third reason they say why India's ratings remain low is due to poor information set about India. Poor information evaluation. Poor information evaluation. They say India has never defaulted on its loan. You should rate on the basis of what? Willingness to pay and ability to pay back the loan. Willingness to pay and ability to pay back the loan. Now they say that willingness to pay, the survey says rating should be done, rating should be done on criteria of one, willingness to pay. They say that India has shown it sufficiently that India has had no default. और वो आपको ग्राफ बना के दिखाते हैं फिर correlation lines, regression lines, lines of correlation, where they say that India is always an outlier. Among countries which have defaulted, some of them have been given a higher rank than India. Those who have defaulted twice or thrice, some of them have recorded higher rank in India. But India has been in the no defaulter category, and in the no default category, no country is ranked below India. कोई ऐसी कंट्री नहीं है जिसने डिफॉल्ट नहीं किया कभी और उसका रैंक इंडिया के नीचे हो. तो वो कहते हैं दिस इज बायस अगेंस्ट इंडिया अगेन. That our willingness to pay is our sovereign loans or other loans is reflected in the commitment we have shown. So we have never defaulted in our history, which means that we are a committed nation which doesn't want to default, and that should give us a high credit rating. But then we don't get that. And the second thing they say is ability to pay. Now, ability to pay is an interesting discussion. सर्वे 3-4 क्राइटेरिया लेते हैं जो मैं आपको समझाता हूँ और आप समझना इसको ठीक से. पहली बात, इन एबिलिटी टू पे दे से one possibility can be your total sovereign debt in foreign currency terms. Total sovereign debt in foreign currency terms. And they say that 2.7% of India's sovereign debt is in foreign currency terms, which is easily payable. इंडिया के टोटल लोन्स में से सरकार के सिर्फ 2.7% हैं जो फॉरेन करेंसी टर्म्स में है, तो ये इजीली पेएबल है. देन दे से सेकंड, टोटल शॉर्ट टर्म डेट as a ratio of foreign exchange reserves. इसको वो स्ट्रेस टेस्ट बोलते हैं कि ये आपका स्ट्रेस टेस्ट है, that how much is your short term debt as a ratio of your foreign exchange reserves considering the variability in your foreign exchange reserve. कि आपके foreign exchange reserves के fluctuations के बाद आपके short term debt कितने हैं considering that. Now 19% is the number in India as the total short-term debt as a ratio of foreign exchange reserves. Only 19% of total short-term debt of India as a ratio of foreign exchange reserves is there, which again shows high paying capacity. Short-term debt का मतलब होता है वो लोन जो एक साल में वापस करना है आपको. Short-term debt means the loan which you have to pay back within a year. Now, India has a total amount of foreign exchange reserves of almost $590 billion, while our short-term debts are not even $100 billion. हमारा foreign exchange reserve $600 billion के आसपास है, हमारा short-term debt $100 billion भी नहीं है, good enough to pay for my debt. In fact, the survey takes it bigger, and it says that there is a third criteria you can choose, which is total foreign currency debt. तो वो कहते हैं टोटल फॉरेन करेंसी डेट इंडिया का $556 बिलियन है, विच इज लेसर देन इंडियाज फॉरेक्स रिजर्व्स. टोटल फॉरेन करेंसी डेट इंडिया का $556 बिलियन है, विच इज लेसर देन इंडियाज फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व्स. टोटल फॉरेन करेंसी डेट ऑफ इंडिया इज $556 बिलियन टोटल. और वो कहते हैं इसमें से 54% IMF और वर्ल्ड बैंक से मिला है, जिसको क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसी से कोई मतलब नहीं होना चाहिए. 54% of long-term debts of India are from IMF and World Bank, which are long-term debts to be paid by the sovereign, nothing to do with the credit rating agencies. क्योंकि क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसीज को रैंक करना होता है शॉर्ट टर्म डेट, कमर्शियल डेट, दो सोवरेन डेट विच हैव बीन टेकन फ्रॉम प्राइवेट मार्केट रादर देन द फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस. तो वर्ल्ड बैंक IMF के लोन को हटा दें तो ये नंबर मुश्किल से $300 बिलियन रह जाता है, which suggests again, or $360 billion रह जाता है, which suggests that we are on the safer track, we are doing well for ourselves, and we can pay back the loans, and we have the ability to pay also. The survey says India is like a net positive worth company. एक कंपनी जिसके लोन कम है, इनकम ज़्यादा हो, ऐसे सिस्टम में है इंडिया। और फिर भी द कंपनी, द क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसीज हैव नॉट रेंज्ड इंडिया वेल बिकॉज ऑफ द बायस, द 3 पॉइंट्स दैट आई टोल्ड यू अर्लियर, कि इसके वजह से उनको अच्छे से रैंकिंग इंडिया को वो नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। So the survey says that means that their ranking is not a serious enough ranking. You know, their ranking is not a serious enough ranking. That means their ranking is something where as long as you have not already become better off, they will not be ranking you well. Also the survey says that their ranking suffers from latecomer bias. मतलब जो लेट आए हैं डेवलपमेंट प्रोसेस में, उनकी रैंकिंग लो रखे हुए हैं, इंडिया चाइना बीइंग एन एग्जांपल। दूसरा, ये लोग लेट से रिस्पॉन्ड भी करते हैं, दैट वंस द क्राइसिस हैज हैपेंड देन दे रिस्पॉन्ड बाय पुशिंग द रेटिंग्स डाउन इमीडिएटली, व्हिच हर्ट्स द कंट्रीज आल्सो, दैट दे डोंट पुश द रेटिंग्स डाउन टिल थिंग्स आर बेटर एंड दे सडनली go push the ratings down once the system has gone bad. Now there is another interesting discussion about the talk with respect to effect of sovereign credit rating on select indicators. कि सोवरेन क्रेडिट रेटिंग के उन्होंने फिर शॉर्ट टर्म, मीडियम टर्म, लॉन्ग टर्म इफेक्ट लिए कि सेलेक्ट इंडिकेटर्स पे क्या इफेक्ट है। ये पोर्शन आप ठीक से पढ़ोगे इकोनॉमिक सर्वे का कि क्या इफेक्ट है। आपको मैं बता देता हूं उसकी समरी, दैट व्हेन इट कम्स टू सोवरेन क्रेडिट रेटिंग इफेक्ट on indicators, the survey concludes effect on indicators that impact on fiscal deficit is insignificant. Second, impact on growth is insignificant. India has grown better in even years of downgrades. So it is, or India has fiscal deficit, even if high, the downgrades have not happened. So in that case, the impact on fiscal deficit has been insignificant. Impact on growth has been insignificant. Impact on foreign portfolio investment is significant in only the short run. Significant means statistically significant, of course. Only in short run. अगर एक साल का टाइम लें तो ये सिग्निफिकेंस कम होने लग जाती है, लेकिन शॉर्ट रन में इमीडिएटली अगर डाउनग्रेड हुआ रेटिंग तो एफपीआई पे असर है, अपग्रेड का असर नहीं है। इफ द रेटिंग हैज बीन डाउनग्रेडेड देन द एफपीआई has made an impact, but the ratings have made an impact, but in upgradation the ratings don't make an impact. So when it comes to impact on foreign portfolio investment, again the ratings have not shown significant results. It's only in the short run that they have shown significant results. But other indicators that they check across, exchange rate fluctuations, they don't make a significant impact. The fourth part, exchange rate has not shown significant fluctuation. Exchange rate fluctuations not significant. अब देखो, एक तो प्रीलिम्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से अगेन क्या सिग्निफिकेंट है क्या सिग्निफिकेंट नहीं है वो ध्यान में रख लेना है। फिस्कल डेफिसिट नॉट सिग्निफिकेंट, लाइक आफ्टर द इयर्स ऑफ रेटिंग डाउनग्रेड आवर फिस्कल डेफिसिट डिड नॉट गो अप। ऐसा नहीं हुआ कि हमारे रेटिंग कॉस्ट्स बढ़ गए, इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट्स, और फिस्कल डेफिसिट ऊपर चला गया, ऐसा नहीं हुआ। दैट आवर इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट्स वेंट अप एंड फिस्कल डेफिसिट वेंट अप, इट डिडंट हैपन। सिमिलरली ग्रोथ सफर्ड, डिडंट हैपन। एक्सचेंज रेट फ्लक्चुएटेड, डिडंट हैपन। FPI, yes, in the short run it did have an impact, but in medium and long run again we don't see an impact. Why is the survey saying all this? अब सारी बातों की एक बात समझो यहाँ। Why is the survey saying all this? Please connect it to chapter 2 that we have discussed. Survey is saying this because chapter 2 and chapter 3, chapter 2 में उन्होंने क्या बात किया, भाई अगर आपका ग्रोथ रेट इंटरेस्ट रेट से बड़ा है तो फिस्कल डेफिसिट रखने में कोई हर्ज नहीं। If your G is greater than R, then go for a fiscal deficit, not a problem. In chapter 3 also they are saying, hence you should not get worried about credit rating downgrades. The government should not bother about credit rating downgrades. India should not fit itself into a very strong fiscal discipline scenario. India should look for the possibility of high fiscal deficit in order to revive its economy. तो ये connected है chapter 2 से. ये समझाना आपको जरूरी था, इसलिए ये बातें की आपसे. That the survey is trying to say, with all this, hence they conclude that all this suggests that credit rating agencies' impact in Indian context is negligible. Credit rating agencies' impact in Indian context is negligible. So government should not bother about what will happen if they downgrade. The government should not bother about what will happen if they downgrade us from the system. The government should rather get ahead and make sure that the credit rating agencies, the government should rather get ahead and make sure that the credit rating agencies can give us any grade. But since we have not suffered much because of them, we will get ahead and take our fiscal deficit high. Why are they imploring high fiscal deficit? Chapter 2 के end में, chapter 2 के end में आपके दो lines हैं जो important हैं, जो दिमाग में रखोगे. At the end of chapter 2, there are two lines which are important. Page 75 पे, page 77 पे. These two lines are important. That having a high fiscal deficit is important. Again, क्यों ये बात मैं लिंक कर रहा हूँ, ये समझना जरूरी है आपका. क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसीज से मत डरो, उससे अच्छा डेफिसिट इनकर करो और कंट्री को आगे बढ़ने दो, क्योंकि ये कोविड का साल है, ये और स्लो डाउन में हैं हम. ये सर्वे कह रहे हैं बार बार. 2 में उन्होंने एक तरीके से बोला, 3 में दूसरे तरीके से बोल रहे हैं. और बोलते हुए क्या कह रहे हैं समझना. तो चैप्टर 2 में पेज 77 पे उन्होंने दो बातें कही हैं. एक कहे दैट हाई गवर्नमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर कैन बूस्ट लॉन्ग टर्म ग्रोथ. क्यों? क्योंकि जब तुम कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर करोगे, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बनाओगे, व्हेन यू मेक डू कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर, मेक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, डेवलप स्कूल्स, क्रिएट प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी, योर लॉन्ग टर्म ग्रोथ विल बी बूस्टेड. So that is what they say, that with multi-year public investment packages, so long-term growth with multi-year public investment packages. ये multi-year public investment packages क्या हैं? इनके दो examples सोचो. प्रीलिम्स में ऐसे ही पूछेंगे. Multi-year investment packages क्या हैं? National Infrastructure Pipeline और एग्रीकल्चरल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फंड. ऐसा थोड़ी कह रहे हैं एक ही साल में सब खर्च हो जाएगा. ये तो 5-5 साल, 6-6 साल के प्रोग्राम, 20-20 साल के प्रोग्राम्स हैं. दीज आर मल्टी ईयर पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट पैकेजेस. वन थिंग. एंड देन द सेकेंड थिंग दे से ऑन द सेम पेज, आई रिपीट, this is page 77. The second thing they say is that in case of excessive risk aversion by the private sector, it can lead to a hysteresis impact in the market. Excessive risk aversion by private sector, excessive risk aversion by private sector can lead to negative hysteresis effect. ये क्या है negative hysteresis effect? Hysteresis, as I have told you already, is impact of a wrong policy persisting even after the policy is gone. एक गलत पॉलिसी का नतीजा जो पॉलिसी के जाने के बाद भी परसिस्ट करता है. सर्वे कह रहे हैं अगर सरकार ने अभी अपने खर्चे नहीं बढ़ाए और इकोनॉमी को रिवाइव नहीं किया तो अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, रिसेशन ये कंटिन्यू करेगा और फिर वर्कर्स के बिहेवियर में, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के रिस्क टेकिंग एबिलिटी में, मार्केट्स के डेवलपमेंट में, सब पे इसका असर पड़ेगा. वर्कर्स विल बी negative in sentiment, entrepreneurs will be negative in sentiments, markets will be bearish, negative in sentiments, and then the economy will go into a depression. That if the government doesn't take the right steps, then the hysteresis effect of contraction or restricted policy will have an impact over a long time. COVID has already created the negative sentiment, so it is important that the sooner we get rid of it, better off we are. So that is where the survey again comes in and says that, hence, don't worry about the credit rating agencies, and they prove it with different features that we just discussed. And don't worry about not being able to pay back the loan. We will be, because our growth is higher than our interest rate. and therefore government should go for an expansionary fiscal policy. That is what the survey is imploring. All right. Few things I will tell you more when I discuss about the relevance of fiscal deficit in India. ये बात अलग से करेंगे कि relevance of fiscal deficit क्या है इंडिया में. But ये important है जो अभी मैंने कहा, and this is the summarized form of survey chapter 3. So that is what you can keep in mind from survey chapter 3. I'm sorry I missed your questions. So I hope Muskan you got the first point again. Speculative grading sort of implies that you talk about, जब आप कहते हो bond is in speculative grade, it means your money may or may not come back. Junk grade means chances are it will not come back. Speculative grade means your money may or may not come back. Be careful before investing in this bond. You know, that is the meaning. Okay, I hope then we are done on chapter 3 of the survey as a discussion. फोर्थ चैप्टर में सर्वे बोलते रहे कि अपने आप ही होगा, ग्रोथ होगा तो अपने आप सोशल इंडिकेटर्स बढ़ रहे हैं, एजुकेशन इंडिकेटर्स बढ़ रहे हैं, क्राइम रेट कम हो रहा है, तो आपको क्या दिक्कत है? इनइक्वालिटी बढ़ने पर भी आपको क्या दिक्कत है? व्हाट्स द प्रॉब्लम विथ राइजिंग इनइक्वालिटी इफ अदर फैक्टर्स आर बिकमिंग बेटर? आई एम ट्राइंग टू गिव यू अ काउंटर व्यू टू दैट देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम दैट इनइक्वालिटी राइजिंग विल इन द ओवर अ पीरियड कॉम्प्रोमाइज ऑन द कैपेसिटी टू ग्रो. It will create social disturbance, as we see in India, the lack of trust regarding government. It will create political disturbances, as we see in India, protests almost everywhere by everyone, sometimes sponsored also at times. I'm not talking about farmers' protests when I say sponsored, but I talk about several social media protests which can be sponsored. You know, just to clarify the point, because आजकल हम सब लोग farmers' protest लेके बहुत sensitized हैं, तो मैं इसलिए clear कर रहा हूँ. Third, it can lead to social turmoil with families breaking up and so on, and that is not good for productivity. Trust and productivity are interrelated. So इसीलिए what we can aspire for is inclusive growth. So poverty can be alleviated, and along with poverty alleviation, we can keep growing also. For example, one, job-oriented growth. How do we create job-oriented growth? Investing in lower-end industries. You know, textile, leather goods, electrical appliances, electronic appliances. These are your lower end industries. What is the benefit of these industries? ये कौन से industries हैं सोचो? Textile, footwear, electronic appliances, electrical appliances, you know, ये या food processing. ये वो industries हैं जो job oriented हैं. They can give you jobs. Since they can give you jobs, they will create work, they will give workers extra money. So your workers trapped in agriculture, your workers working as landless labor, they will start getting some vent here because these industries need unskilled worker, semi-skilled workers and very skilled workers. So the unskilled workers can be absorbed here, semi-skilled workers can be absorbed here. This is manufacturing-led growth by targeting lower-end manufacturing. और ये कौन से लोग होंगे जो आज 3-4 हज़ार रुपए महीने का कमा रहे हैं? People who are earning 3-4,000 rupees per month. Once they get employed here, because it doesn't need very high skill, so they can get employed here with some small training programs. They can start earning 9-10,000 rupees a month, and what will they demand? Processed food, clothes, watches, leather belts, shoes, which they are producing. So make in India and make for India. That is one way to let country grow more equitably. And as they grow more, they will demand more banking, more insurance, more software. So your service growth also keeps continuing. Then the second thing to do is, and the government has already started this process with production-linked incentive, Make in India program. So you know these are already there. We have to strengthen them and focus them better on these sectors. The second is, of course, focusing on infrastructure. Connectivity of rural areas, housing in poor localities, developing water supply system that will create equitable system. And then third, focusing on education and healthcare. Human resource is the only resource which is active. Humans काम करते हैं बाकी सारे resources पे. तो ये एकमात्र resource है जो active resource है. तो इस पे काम करो. Focus on education, healthcare of the individuals, make them more productive. As you make them more productive, it will result in people rising up the ladder. अब ये मैं बिल्कुल नहीं कह रहा कि rich will not become richer. Please understand this. The rich can become richer and the poor can become richer, but if poor become rich at a faster rate than what the rich are becoming rich at, inequality can also fall. अमीर अमीर हो सकता है, गरीब भी थोड़ा अमीर हो सकता है. अगर गरीबों में अमीरी फास्टर रेट पे बढ़ी तो इनइक्वालिटी भी कम हो सकती है, जिससे कि आपकी ओवरऑल प्रोडक्टिविटी और राइज करेगी. अब ये करने का तरीका है जो मैं आपको ये बता रहा हूँ तरीके. Provision of healthcare, provision of education, better infrastructure like electrification for all, healthcare, communication for all, BharatNet kind of program to be promoted. Promote programs like Saubhagya, Sahaj Bijli Har Ghar Yojana. Promote programs like Bharatmala, connecting the backward regions to regions which are developed. Promote programs like Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. And all that will mean that you are reaching a situation where your poors will get higher participation. But that has to be facilitated by proper regulatory system by the government. सरकार को रेगुलेट करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि जब पुअर्स आएंगे पार्टिसिपेट करने को तो उनसे धोखा होना, उनको चीट करना, उन्हें एक्सप्लॉइट करना, इसके भी चांसेस बढ़ सकते हैं अगर लीगली वीक हो. सो इम्प्रूव ऑन लीगैलिटी ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट, इम्प्रूव ऑन लीगैलिटी ऑफ इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स so that they remain protected and promote research and development. Improve on legalities related to labor laws so that laborers are not ill-treated and laborers don't feel overprotected and then ill-treat the employer. So balance the labor laws. This is what has to be the aspect. So ideally what the economic survey should have done, if you ask me, ideally what the economic survey should have done is they should have said that right now India is going through a phase where growth is happening and people are coming out of absolute poverty. Growth is happening and people are coming out of absolute poverty. But inequality is rising, and rising inequality can be contained by focusing on inclusive growth related programs. So in the longer run, both poverty and inequality can be tackled. Also remember, survey takes data from only 19 big states that can have its own influence on total decision making. बिकॉज बहुत सारे हिली स्टेट्स हैं जहाँ इनइक्वालिटी डिटर्मिनिंग फैक्टर बन जाती है. देयर आर मेनी हिली स्टेट्स वेयर इनइक्वालिटी बिकम्स अ डिटर्मिनिंग फैक्टर. ऑल्सो सर्वे यूजेस रिपोर्ट्स विच डू नॉट कवर द इंटायर पॉपुलेशन स्पेस. सैम्पल स्पेसेस कैन बी सेलेक्टिव एट टाइम्स इवन इफ दे हैव बीन चोजन रैंडमली. रैंडम सैम्पल तुम ले सकते हो, लेकिन फिर भी तुम्हें उनमें बायस मिल सकता है. सर्वे इनके बारे में कोई चर्चा नहीं करते. Survey doesn't talk about the bias in the samples. Survey doesn't, or the testing of that bias. Survey doesn't talk about not considering the other states of India. So remember, the reason why rising inequality can be accompanied in the scatter. जब आप scatter देखते हो तो नजर आएगा आपको कि inequality के बढ़ने के साथ भी social indicators improve हो रहे हैं. कारण ये नहीं है कि inequality बढ़ने से social indicator improve हो रहे हैं. The reason for rising inequality in the rising scatter is not because inequality is responsible for rising better social indicators. My diagnosis is that growth has increased tremendously in the last 30 years in India, creating higher capacity within the government to provision education, provision healthcare, provision infrastructure, which has uplifted people out of poverty, and that level of situation shows that overall standard of living has become better in India. But rising inequality because people who were earlier in the bottom ladder have grown, people in the top ladder have grown, but people in the top ladder have grown faster because our growth has been mostly urban centered and our growth has been service sector centered. तो जो लोग urban areas में हैं और service sector में हैं वो better grow कर गए, और जो rural areas में हैं नॉन सर्विस सेक्टर में स्पेशली एग्रीकल्चर में है वो नहीं ग्रो कर पाए. Those in the urban areas, service sector areas grew faster. Those in agriculture, in rural areas, they didn't grow that fast. And inequality has therefore shown its trend. Also, training facilities for workers is different depending on where you got trained. So on one hand, we have the largest number of engineers in the world. On the other, we have the largest number of illiterates in the world. ये huge dichotomy है in the Indian system. So inequality of opportunity is what is creating inequality of development in India. Inequality of opportunity is what is creating inequality of development in India. Also remember, growth is a quantitative term. Growth जो है वो quantity बताता है. आपका GDP इतना बढ़ गया, कैसे बढ़ा ये नहीं बताता. How did your GDP rise? It doesn't tell you, it just tells you GDP increased this much. So you can very well have growth with inequality, and you can have growth which can be punctured in the longer run. So we already see India's growth story reaching a plateau. Last 2 years have not been good for us. One reason is acrimony in the country, and the acrimony is a lot because of inequality rising. That is the point. If people are dissatisfied with rising problems, then they are like a tinder box. बस एक चिंगारी डालनी है, उसमें वो फटेंगे, क्योंकि वो पहले ही परेशान है कि भाई हमें ये नहीं मिल रहा, वो नहीं मिल रहा. So this is where government should work on urban development projects focusing on poorer areas of the region. Rural development projects focusing on poorer areas of the region. Overall economic development focusing on the poor in this manner. And that way we will be able to upgrade people, create the new middle class about which the Prime Minister talked in his election speech in 2014. He used to talk about the new middle class. So if the new middle class is required, then the current policies will have to be tweaked a little. फिर उनको more poor oriented बनाना होगा. We call it bottoms up approach, that focus on going from bottom to top rather than from top to bottom. So this can be your general idea on 4th chapter. 3rd and 4th chapter, they will not be giving you too many headaches from UPSC point of view. 4th inequality पे based है, तो मैंने आपको एक overview दिया इसीलिए. Prelims में मुझे chances कम है 4th से कुछ आने के. 3rd से जो chance था मैंने आपको बता दिया उसको लेकर, that these are the chances coming from 3rd. So this is the discussion on 3rd and 4th chapter that we can do on economic survey. I'm sorry I again missed your questions. Macroeconomic stability, Harshita, is having stable fiscal deficit, having stable current account deficit, having stable inflation, and having stable growth. This is macroeconomic stability, that fiscal deficit in control, current account deficit in control, inflation in control, and GDP growth stable. That is macroeconomic stability. Yes, Tanishq, it can be. See, Chinese method of poverty reduction, mind you, survey again does it in its own way, but Chinese method of poverty reduction was bottoms up. They also had a rising inequality, no doubt. That's very normal, क्योंकि जब तुम policy change करोगे, ये भी समझो आप लोग, जब आप policy change करोगे, तो आपकी inequality जो है वो बढ़ेगी थोड़ी, because people on the higher end of the spectrum are in a better position to take that inequality. People on the higher end of the spectrum are in a better position to take benefits of the changes. तो वो inequality बढ़ती है आपकी. ये चाइना में भी हुआ था शुरू में. After that, how long and how much your inequality will rise is directly a function of your policy making. If your policies are equity oriented, then you will get growth with equity. तो मैं सर्वे के साथ डिसएग्री ये कर रहा हूं कि ग्रोथ के साथ इनइक्वालिटी का ट्रेड ऑफ इंडिया जैसे कंट्रीज में तगड़ा नहीं है. ये नहीं कि आप ग्रो करोगे तो इनइक्वालिटी बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ना ही चाहिए. नॉट नेसेसरी. यू कैन ग्रो एंड यू कैन ग्रो बाय कंट्रोलिंग इनइक्वालिटी इन इंडिया इफ यू आर ग्रोइंग बाय द राइट टेक्निक्स. दैट इज ऑफ फोकसिंग ऑन पुअर्स थ्रू लेबर इंटेंसिव ग्रोथ, through infrastructure development, through human resource development, by provisioning of basic services to people, by giving them law and order, by developing trust among the people. This is the way to go actually. Chinese, what they did was, they started with the town and village enterprises. So their reforms was in the rural area. पहले उन्होंने rural areas को strong किया. पहले तो Chinese ने क्या कहा? Initially they said that if farmers grow a surplus in the rural area, they can sell it in the open market. They don't need to deposit it to the cooperative. This was giving freedom to the farmers that if you can produce more, you sell and earn more. So the rural areas started developing. Then they created health education in the rural areas. That started developing more. And then went for industrial development by mid-1980s by creating special economic zones. And for again lower end industrial development by creating town and village enterprises. Developing exactly these sectors that I told you, footwear, textile, becoming the global manufacturing house by mid of 1990s. And then went on for export-oriented growth and then distributed their money. And even now they are not very equal. Don't forget, northern China and western China are not very well developed. South and east is the real development where it has taken place. But still Chinese could do better, mainly because their growth policy was to some extent bottoms up. In India, we focused on services sector and we have focused on urban-led growth. So rural areas where majority of our population lives has remained deprived. So that I think is the policy mistake that we have done. Harshita, I think this much discussion will be sufficient for chapter 4. Hence, I thought that, okay, let me give you 20 minutes and cover it itself, 25 minutes. Yes, Tanishq, why not? Not relevant in India, Saurabh. Again, the original position hypothesis of John Rawls, it says that if you ask people to choose their original position, and then the survey says that people also choose unequal situations. True, but it will also depend on which people you are asking. You know, that is not being made clear by by the survey. John Rawls said that you make the worst of person better off. John Rawls ने कहा कि आपके इकोनॉमी में जो सबसे खराब हालत में है, जब तक आप उनको ठीक नहीं करोगे, तब तक इकोनॉमी ठीक हालत में नहीं आएगी. सर्वे कहते हैं ऐसा कोई ज़रूरी नहीं. इनइक्वालिटी को लोग भी एक्सेप्ट करते हैं क्योंकि थोड़ी इनइक्वालिटी होने से इकोनॉमी में लोगों को ज़्यादा परेशानी नहीं होती. राइट, नोबडी सेज दैट एवरीबडी शुड बी परफेक्टली इक्वल. But the deprivation should not be very stark. So in that sense, survey is correct, that the focus should be on absolute poverty removal. But where I disagree with them is that we can go for absolute poverty removal without compromising on equity creation also. And the reasons I told you. Because Harshita, because the developed economies have actually, advanced economies have reached their PPC. They can only redistribute now. They cannot grow. So if they have reached their capacity, so they cannot redistribute, they can only grow. So advisable is let the India is not in that category. India can grow further. So if India can grow further, it implies then that India grows and the growth, the fruit of that growth should be distributed equally among people and more to the deprived so that they can be brought up quickly. You know, कि जो fruits of growth हैं, उनको सरकार channelize करे उस तरफ ज़्यादा जहाँ रिक्वायरमेंट ज़्यादा है, जो गरीब लोग हैं, जो डिप्राइव्ड लोग हैं, तो अपने आप आपकी ग्रोथ फास्टर हो जाएगी, ग्रोथ भी फास्टर हो जाएगी और इक्विटी भी आएगा साथ में. Yes, Bikash, that is where the survey, that I again repeat, the counter redistribution part is the point where it's assuming that trickle down will happen on its own. But point is that may or may not happen. It will need a structuring to happen. Attack on poverty is important, but inequality can also be controlled in a country like India, especially asset inequality, which can be controlled by redistribution of assets, where government investment should be for the poor. You know, सरकार उन चीज़ों में इन्वेस्ट करे जिसे गरीब इस्तेमाल करते हैं. इसीलिए मैंने हेल्थ केयर, एजुकेशन, लोअर एंड इंडस्ट्रीज का एग्जाम्पल दिया. इफ गवर्नमेंट गिव्स दैट सपोर्ट, देन द कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग ऑफ द पुअर्स कम्स डाउन एंड यू कैन हैव मोर इक्विटेबल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ वेल्थ. From survey chapter 4, again I repeat, it's a lot of graphs that they have drawn for you. The only place I suggest, if you want, you can read on your own. The only place is page 138. You know, page 138 to page number 143 is what you can quickly read through. मैंने already discuss कर लिया है आपके साथ वो inequality or poverty and then impact in India. So 138 to 143 page in the survey is worth reading from chapter 4. But I have already discussed it with you. Nothing much. Apart from that, it's full of graphs which I have already interpreted for you. So I think this much will be sufficient.